Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of What Do You Believe? I'm Devin Croner, your host, pastor, local real estate agent in the Northern Kentucky area, and I'm excited to bring you this continuing series of interviews as we talk with people from all over, different walks of life, different perspectives, interests, beliefs, and experiences. And today, I'm excited to bring in our next guest to talk about something that is a subject that is very, very important for people to understand about the importance of debt, getting out of debt, um, doing away with debt. It's such a powerful thing that drags people down and keeps them from being able to experience the life that they want to experience. So, Mike, first of all, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I think
Well,
I think I came into the room in the middle of your opening
yeah, just
monologue.
a little introduction of the theme for today. But first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I
Sure,
appreciate your time.
sure.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and your background, first of all.
Yeah, sure. My name is Mike Post. I am an entrepreneur here in Cincinnati, Ohio. My wife and I live here in Blue Ash. If you're familiar with the area, we have 3 kids, 13, 9, and 4. So we're very, very busy and have a lot of fun with soccer and dance and all that fun stuff. Born and raised here in Cincinnati. I been in sales and business development for over 25 years, and I've pretty much sold everything in almost every way that you can imagine selling it, including door to door and all that CRAP. I'm very politically active and have all kinds of awesome opinions, and I'll tell you all about them. You're wondering. I have a degree in theater, and yeah, that's kind of long and short of it, I guess.
Very cool. Now, with all of that background and experience, how did you get into this area of helping people kind of tackle and overcome debt issues and getting out of debt? What brought that on?
Well, it's kind of it's funny because if you'd asked me, excuse me, I'm going to close my office door here. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, what are 2 things you'd never sell? What are you smiling at? My wife is smiling at me. I'm closing the door, probably because I'm cute. Anyway, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, what are 2 things you never sell? I told you cars and financial services. So it's kind of funny that I'm in financial services now, although I certainly focus in one very unique area. At the beginning of 2019, I started a company, and what it was doesn't really matter. It's not material to the story, but when I was trying to recruit employees, it was all 1099, all remote. And when I was trying to recruit employees, and these are all folks who said before I'd started the company, "Hey, I want to join you. I want to do what you're doing. I want to be on your team." I went back to them and told them what was going on, what we were doing. They said, "Oh, it's 1099. Well, I got a wife and kids. I need benefits." And I'm like, "Ah, crap." So in trying to find out how do I do a 401k without doing a 401k, I created a partnership with a gentleman who was helping me with that. And we went through a couple of deals and created a relationship. And he eventually said, "Mike, I'm going to pitch you." And I said, "Great, pitch me. What's going on?" And he said, "What if I could show you how to pay off all your debt, including your mortgage, in 9 years or less, using no more money than you're currently using?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And now he's a good friend of mine. I said, "Ike, I'd ask you when we're going to jail. That sounds ridiculous. I mean, that's insane. What an insane thing to say." I said, "Am I the pharaoh of this pyramid or what? This is ridiculous." Well, long story short, I found out took me several weeks to explore what was going on. And my wife and I had a very visceral experience with debt back in 2008. And so when I saw what was going on and the strategies they were using, and that, the numbers worked, which is really the bottom line. I said, man, if I can help people not to feel the way that I felt as a less of a man, and I couldn't take care of my family. And I mean, I remember vividly, for those who know the area here, we had a house in North College Hill lived out there for 7 years, and I remember vividly looking out the kitchen window to our dilapidated driveway and not seeing our wonderful 10-year-old Honda Civic. And I said, "Babe, what'd you do where's the car?" She's like, "I don't know. Where is it?" Well, the bank came and got it. And we were a mess. We were an absolute mess. And I thought, man, if I could help people not to feel that way, how low that I felt back then, and make money for my family, I said, I'm in. I'm going to pursue this. And I created the Debt Eliminator, which is my brand. It's not a franchise or anything like that. And we started pursuing that dream back August 1st of last year. And we've got going on 40 clients and helped a bunch of people to get out of debt faster. And, it takes time. So these people aren't fully out of debt yet, but they're on the path and going down this road, and they've learned what our strategies are. And it's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey so far.
Very cool. So talk a little bit about our relationship with debt, specifically in the United States, and kind of how that's come about and what people's mentality really is,
Sure.
for the most part.
Yeah. Well, it boils down to wanting things that you can't have. Keeping up with the Joneses is a very old adage that's still true today. And their name ain't Jones, but you want to keep up with them, and you want to be sexy like your friends, and you don't want to say no to things. And a lot of folks have not been trained properly by whomever is to be training them. And that could be their parents. It could be grandparents, could be, work mentors or friends or everyone around them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't exercise the savings muscle.
Mm.
And it's it just from a very basic life principle standpoint, you have to sow before you reap.
Mm.
And there's no two ways around it. You can get biblical with that if you want, but you don't have to. You have to sow before you reap. And after you sow, you have to maintain, you have to prune, you have to till, you have to make sure you're sowing in fertile ground. And all these things are all factors in this, and people don't practice that.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gotten used to debt slavery.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to me and a little sad, but I try to meet people where they are and not give my full opinion, because I've been there. I know what it's like. And but most people, when you talk about debt, they don't consider their car and their house debt, because everyone has that. And they don't think about it that way. They say, "Oh, I don't really have any debt. Maybe 10 grand in credit card debt." Well, what about your house and your car? Or your car is and they don't think about it that way, unfortunately, but they should. If you're paying interest, you're in debt, and it's not a good thing.
Right. And again, this mentality is kind of driven into us earlier and earlier now. I
Yeah,
mean, now even on Facebook, I've seen ads for their debit cards, but basically a
sure.
card for kids that are like reloadable to teach them to use cards wisely. And
Yep.
the benefit, I guess, is that they hit their cap like a secured credit card. They can't charge anymore, but they're not tracking this,
No,
and that's
no.
not something that we really learn about in
Hmm.
school anymore.
Yeah.
How to balance a checkbook or keep up with a budget or those
Hmm.
sorts of skills. And so you get out there, and like you go to college, let's just say a traditional route, you go to college, and here you are, welcome to college, sign up for this club, sign up for this activity, here's 4 credit cards on
Sure.
top of the student loans and all the other things. And
Hmm.
now we're getting to the place, and it's more and more in the national discourse, where people
Yeah.
are graduating with debt that they're not going to pay off the rest of their life.
Nope.
A lot of them.
Yeah. They're going to be in debt for at least 20 years, if not 30 or 40 years.
Mhm.
And they won't get out until they're 60, 70, if ever.
Right.
Um,
And
and
by
it's,
then you basically missed everything in life that you're supposed to enjoy. I mean, I know
yeah,
people talk about retirement, but like I've got energy now. I've got kids now. I
yeah.
want to be able to do stuff now, not, one day out in the future. So when somebody comes to you, whether they're ready and say, okay, I need to do this, or whether they're skeptical, what's the
Mhm.
first thing that you address with them? Is it mindset? Is it just locating where they are? How does that start?
Yeah, figuring out where they are, because I've had, several clients that I didn't make a dime on. I just gave them some mindset.
Mhm.
And honestly, there are a couple that already had some tools in place that they could get out of debt pretty quickly if they didn't know. It's like the book Acres of Diamonds, a very old book, a very great book, but they don't know that they've got all the tools they need right there in their backyard, quote unquote, if they
Mhm.
simply looked at it in the proper way. And whether that's savings, whether that's just not spending their money so frivolously, or things like that. So mindset's a big part of it. And every single one of my clients, that once we determine what the plan's going to be and how it's going to look, we have a come to Jesus meeting about debt. Because
Mhm.
I've had several, you know, folks that know more about money than I do, and there's a ton of them. Because I there are lots of people that know way more about finance and all
Mhm.
this stuff, investments and everything, way more than I do. And they'll say, well, yeah, but what happens? So you get them out of debt, and then they go back into debt. What happens then? And I go, I mean, I'm not their master. They they can do what they want, but we do have that conversation that, hey, we want to change the mentality
Mhm.
about your relationship with your money, and you need to save more than you spend. Or excuse me, you need to save more money, and you need to not spend more than you make.
Mhm.
That is never a good recipe. And unfortunately, I've also um, come across people, and I guess I could call them clients. I counsel them a little bit, but they were broke as a joke, and they had already. At the end of the day, you need money to pay off debt. It's not magic; it's numbers. 1 + 1 = 2. It never doesn't. It always is that way. And I'm not some Svengali. It's just having that different perspective. But I remember several clients, they had already gotten all the raises they could possibly get at that moment in their career. They had already gotten all the discounts on their expenses, whether it be reducing their services, getting rid of, or whatever it is, not having as much cable or any cable, whatever it is, but reduce
Mhm.
the expenses. And they still were barely making their minimum payments on their debts and their expenses. And there's not much you can do about that. It's just, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And but you got to have that conversation. You got to. I love what I'm a pretty big fan of Dave Ramsey and naming every dollar. You got to
Mhm.
know where your money's going, because so many people don't. If you just looked at one of the tools I give my clients is a weekly. You can't see it because of my background, but it's a weekly budget tool, not a monthly, not a yearly, weekly.
Mhm.
Write down. If you wrote down everything you spend money on in a week or a month, you'd
Mhm.
be shocked how many hundreds of dollars you give to Starbucks or McDonald's or parking, wherever, whatever it is.
Hiding my face. That it's so
But we all do it, and I'm not immune. I'm not, like, I'm not Jesus in this picture at all. I'm as guilty as the next guy, which is, I my opinion is what makes me unique in the field. I'm going to tell you
Mhm.
my story, and you're going to know about it, how I had a very what happened back there in '08, and what stupid things I've done since then. We're all human, but we have to understand and realize that you can change, and it needs to start now.
Yeah. And it's about, again, starting where you are, not just wishing for something to be different. Again, on the pastoral side of it, I have people come to me all the time that they want
Yeah.
an answer that's going to magically transform things.
Yes.
And again, I'm a big believer in miracles, but
Sure.
but
Sure.
I also have said this so many times that it's not really funny, but it's kind of funny. A lot of times your problem is you're stupid. You don't need Jesus. You
Yeah.
need to not be stupid.
You
And
know, not
when
be
it comes to
stupid.
money, what you said is exactly true. Math, is simple
Yeah.
when in this regard. One plus
Sure.
one equals two all the time. And
Yeah.
so you have to start with where you are. But a lot
Yeah.
of people don't even know where they are.
No, no clue. No clue.
And so I'm
No clue.
making I'm making $60,000 a year. I'm making $100,000 a year. Well, that's fantastic. But you're
Sure.
spending 70,000 or 120,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can have less and be able to do less than somebody who's making, a starter salary, right out of high school, even, because they don't have debt. They keep their expenses simple. So let's back up, start with that. So somebody comes to you, they're in trouble, I'm looking at foreclosure, I'm looking at bankruptcy. I don't want to do that. I have a good job. Maybe I have some assets. Maybe I don't really know if I have assets.
Yeah,
What does this process look like? What
sure,
do you do after you kind of identify where they are?
sure. Well, I want to touch on something you said there, which I love is, and I say it all the time, is you go to war with the army you have.
Mhm.
And it may not be the best army, they may not be the best trained, but you got to go with the army that you have. Start now, do what you can do now, and then we can get better over time. We can
Mhm.
always get better over time. And once you have those first couple wins, those are things to celebrate. We should celebrate them, and you get bigger wins and bigger wins, and that's how you win in life with anything.
Right.
I remember years ago, I decided I wanted to be able to do 100 push-ups. And I was never able to do 100 push-ups in one set. There was like 7 sets of 3 of 20 sets, and then like the last couple sets were like 3 and 1 push-up because I was done. But I started only being able to do 3 push-ups. That was it. But you build from that, and same thing with getting out of debt. So when we talk to our clients, I tell people we're like Dave Ramsey without the beans and rice. And if you know anything about Dave Ramsey, he's going to tell you to cordon down your lifestyle to beans and rice and
Mhm.
snowball your debt, name every dollar, get rid of your credit cards, buy a term, invest a difference. That's kind of his 40,000 foot view of what he says. And I for the most part, I think Dave Ramsey's great. I think credit cards have value and you can use them responsibly, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's more to life than just term insurance, but that's neither here nor there. So we combine term insurance. Geez, what am I talking about? We combine snowballing debt
Mhm.
with a strategy called infinite banking, and that's how we get people out very quickly, very effectively, and it also helps them to, while they're getting out of debt, helps them to build an emergency fund and build that cushion so that when it hits the fan, they don't have to go back into debt to buy the new fridge, to put a transmission in the car, because those are real things. Because it's one thing to put a plan together to get out of debt. It's quite another to manage life while you're doing that.
Mhm.
And that's the one thing that people get hung up on, whether you're losing weight or getting out of debt. It's an emotional thing. And the first screw up, the first cheeseburger you eat, the first, you know, stupid expense or money expense that you make, you've
Mhm.
suddenly decided, oh, I'm going to be fat forever. I'm going to be in debt forever, whatever it is. And you don't
Mhm.
have a coach to help you. So we're going to sit down with our clients, and once we build that relationship and that trust, which is a huge factor in the whole process, we have to develop that trust. We're going to find out where they are. We want to know what every debt is. I don't care who you owe. I just want to know what the amounts are. What do you owe? Doesn't
Mhm.
matter who, whether it's, I tell people we can help you pay off any debt that you have, whether it's to Bank of America, if anything owes, or your bookie. We'll help you pay it off faster than anybody else. So we want to name all those debts. We want to figure out what they are, where you are. We want to know what those interest rates are if they have any,
Mhm.
because sometimes you have 0% interest cards, or you owe your mom money and she's not charging you interest. So that's okay. And there's wiggle room there, which is good, always good to have. We want to know what the minimum payments are, and then we want to know what the overages are. Most Americans are overpaying on their debt because they want to get out, and on average, that's somewhere between $300, $400, $500 a month. Most people are overpaying, and they don't really plan this out. They don't say, hey, I'm going to pay $300 extra on all my debt. They have an extra 50 this month. They have an extra 20 that month. And that's kind of how it develops and suddenly gets built into the budget on accident, which is most people, they don't have a specific budget they've planned out. It just, that's what they've fallen into,
Mhm.
kind of. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about putting together a budget if they don't have one already. And we want to start naming every dollar and start being intentional about how we're utilizing our resources,
Mhm.
so that when we start putting together this plan, it's something that will stick and stay, and it's not after I leave you just forget all about it. We don't want to do that.
Hmm. So when you
So
talk about people overpaying on their debt, they're not being strategic. It's just I've got five. Let's say I've got 5 debts, and I
yeah,
put an extra 20 here, an extra 100 here, and it's just kind of sporadic because it
it's
makes
very rare I've seen someone intentionally do it.
they just feel better, like I'm doing a little bit more,
Yeah,
but
in
it's not
fact,
really getting the
yeah,
desired effect because there's not strategy to it.
yeah. Most folks I talk with, there's three things that they don't know about their debt situation. They don't know how much extra they're actually putting towards all of their debt in total. They know each one, but not in total. They never thought about it.
Hmm.
They don't know the total debt they owe. They know each one. They know they owe, Visa $2,500, but they don't know that with all the 5 or 6 or 7 debt lines they have, that it's $175,000.
Hmm.
But they know their interest rates, kind of, but they don't know over the 25, 30 years it's going to take them to pay off their debt doing what they're currently doing. They don't know how much interest they're going to pay over that period of time.
Wow.
And it's eye-opening to show them that. And every client, they get what we call a big picture report. And it's a 5-page full color document. It's very pretty. It's got graphics and it's very nice to look at. But it shows them where they are right now, how long it's going to take them to get out of debt if they keep doing what they're doing and don't change anything, how much interest they'll pay, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, we contrast that with our plan, with snowballing debt, and combining that with infinite banking. So once we determine what those numbers are, I'm going to put together that report for them and show them that. And none of this costs them anything. I don't charge anything for my time. If they never do anything with us, it doesn't cost them anything at all. So we show them where they are and where they could be, and then we kind of have that come to Jesus. Do you want to go down this path or not? And if they do, then we move forward, and then we start talking about how we install this plan in their life and how we utilize it. And here's where I'll describe what infinite banking is. Infinite banking, it's been around for a long time, but it's only really been described in that way the last 30 years ish. And a very unique strategy, and it's a way of utilizing and writing whole life insurance. So what most people know about whole life insurance is that it's expensive and it takes a long time for the cash value to grow. And so what do? Well, the whole purpose that most people get life insurance is for death benefit. So they're going to go spend $50 a month on a term policy, and they're going to get their death benefit, and that's a great way to do it. I have both. I think they're great. They're different tools for different purposes. The difference is the other benefits to and attributes of whole life that most agents and most financial planners kind of know about, but they don't really focus on, is that a whole life contract is a guaranteed contract. It's a liquid contract, meaning you can put money in and out of it very easy without penalty and tax implications. It grows tax-free, and it pays 5.2% compound interest. I'm going to say that again. It pays 5.2% compound interest, tax-free, as long as you use it correctly. So, but again, most people think it's expensive and it grows very slowly, and that is true when you write the contract for death benefit, which again, that's what it's for, right? Well, yes, that is absolutely what it's commonly used for. But when you write the contract, and you can write contracts almost any way you want with all kinds of different bells and whistles, if you know what you're doing. If you write it for cash value, again, you focus the energy of the contract on cash value, not on death benefit. It still has a death benefit, but the cash value grows 40% more quickly. And you effectively turn the instrument into a high interest bank account. And that's how we use it.
Wow.
It still has a death benefit, but that's not our focus. Our focus is the fact that it's an instrument that grows tax-free, 5.2% compound interest, and it's liquid. So I'll give you an example. One of my first clients, and it's a great example because she's not, some, financial wizard, and she's an average normal person, 35 years old, high school guidance counselor. She makes barely 40 a year. She's out in Ross County, Ohio, if you know Ohio at all. And that's in the sticks. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and nobody out there. They're all average, normal, everyday people, working every day, working their 40 and all that. She's $180,000 in debt. I met her about a year and a half ago. And that's not right. Last summer. Anyway, time is just, I can't keep track of time in the age of COVID. Anyway, so she's $180,000 in debt, and that is a small mortgage. She has a couple high interest credit cards. She has 20 grand in student loans, and a car she doesn't even own anymore because she wrecked it. Not her fault, but she didn't have gap insurance. So she owes like 3 grand on a car she doesn't even have anymore. And how depressing is that?
Wow.
And before she met me and we sat down, she said, Mike, before we met, I thought I'd be in debt forever. And that car note was kind of the last straw. And it wasn't much. 3 grand in the scope of things isn't that much. But when you're already feeling like you're underwater, and that's one more thing, and that's the way people are. It's one more thing. And people these days, COVID's happened, it's one more thing. It's just, and they weren't doing well beforehand, and they're hurting. So to her credit, she was overpaying on her debt obligations to the tune of $507 a month. And again, she didn't know she was overpaying that much. It's $50 here, $100 there. And it was whenever she could. It just happened to be, she was doing this every month. And our goal is that these programs and the strategies are budget neutral. Meaning you're not expending any more money out of your budget than you already are. We're just moving buckets. It's all we're trying to do. It's all we want to do. We want this to be very budget easy, budget neutral. So in this respect, we don't ask ourselves how much life insurance does she need, because she does not need life insurance. And even though I'm using a life insurance contract, I'm not selling life insurance, because selling life insurance is selling death benefit. That's what that is. You're selling death benefit, not selling death benefit. She doesn't need death benefit. She has no kids and she's not married. So while we'll miss her when she dies, no one's going to be financially hurt when she dies, which is the purpose of life insurance, the purpose of death benefit. So what we do is we ask her, where are the inefficient dollars? In her case, in our opinion, inefficient dollars are overpayments to debt. It's admirable that you're doing that, but it's not an efficient way to pay off your debt, because it's going to take her 29.2 years. I ran the numbers, I know the numbers, 29.2 years to pay off all of her debt. And she'll have nothing to show for it except, good for you, you're out of debt. And she'll be 60 something years old at that point. So what we say is, instead of overpaying that money to those creditors to put in their pocket to pay them interest and put to their bottom line, let's start earning you interest. Let's flip the script. Instead of paying interest, let's earn interest. And that's one of our main strategies. We want to flip that script from you paying interest to Visa and Bank of America and Fannie Mae and all these people. Let's start slowly moving that storyline to you earning interest. So the 507 becomes a premium. We write a policy, it's fully underwritten. And this was issued in January, beginning of January. So she's been paying this premium every month, and she's flat out excited about January coming up this next year. She's going to be able to pay off her first debt obligation, which is to a credit card, like it's a Visa card. It's not much. It's $1,200 or something like that. It's not much. It's not 30,000 or anything. It's just a small little debt that she has. We're going to take a loan from the policy, which is a completely normal thing to do. It's one sheet of paper. All they do is say, do you own the policy? Yep. You got the money in there? Yep. Okay, there it is. They EFT it to her. She takes that money, sends it off to Visa, for example, pays off that debt fully. And then the minimum payment she was paying them every month, the $50, for example, that goes into the policy now. So now she's totally paying $550 every month into the policy. That pays back the loan that she took out, because you want to be a good banker and pay yourself back. And it also builds up the cash value for the next debt payoff in the snowball. So over time, all of that moves over. And so in this scenario, in 8.8 years, when she's about 43 years old, she will have paid off $180,000 in debt, and she'll have $27,000 in cash value available to her to use however she wants.
Wow.
And that's what we do. And there's a couple more detailed pieces that we go over. There's some, we want to talk to the client about, you don't want to borrow too much out of the policy. You don't want to put too much in, because there's tax implications that can happen. We educate them on all these things, and we don't need to go into that here. But now she has a tool that she can stay out of debt for the rest of her life. She doesn't ever have to finance anything with a credit card or go to a bank ever again if she doesn't want to.
Wow.
She certainly can if she wants, but that's her
Talk about
choice.
that in relationship to, again, like I'm familiar with Dave Ramsey. My wife and I,
Yeah.
when we first got married, we were in that place.
Yeah.
We actually had three car payments. Two of us, we had three car payments. Oh wait, we bought a house, and then I
Yeah.
took a job and we moved. The market crashed. We couldn't sell the
Sure.
place, so we had a rent and a mortgage. She had student loans. I had credit cards. All that stuff. Our date
Sure.
nights for the first year of our marriage were the $5 hot and ready and a $1 red
Oh
bottle.
yeah.
That was
Oh
all we
yeah.
could afford. And
Yeah.
so we got a hold of Dave Ramsey's stuff and did the envelopes and did
Oh
the
yeah.
snowball. So, but what you're describing is a snowball, but it's very, very different than
Mhm.
Dave's snowball.
Yep.
'Cause he would say, and you kind of address this, cut everything back. His big thing is, live like no one else. The later you can live like no one
That's
else.
right.
That's
Yep.
trademarked, by the way. I didn't come up with that. But and so we did that. Okay,
Sure. Sure.
and it does work. It
Of
does work.
course. It does
Uh,
work. Yep.
but the difference in what you're saying is with what you're doing, you really don't change your life.
That's right.
What we did completely changed our life. There was no Starbucks, there was no
Right.
ice cream, there
That's
was
right.
no lunch out because we just felt like it. There was You go to work, you eat the bologna sandwich, you come home, you
Yeah.
have the ramen noodles, you
Yeah.
get up and have the cereal, and you do it all again until you pay off that debt, and then you take that money and you
Yeah.
put it onto the next one, and on and on and on until it's done.
Yeah.
That's not what you're describing.
No.
Uh, so, for better than I just did, kind of compare and contrast the differences of, I guess, the two models, because I know a lot of
Sure.
people are familiar with the debt snowball concept.
Yeah. Well, that's why I bring it up, because it paints a picture. And if you know anything about Dave Ramsey, when I say it's like Dave Ramsey without the beans and rice, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a great story, and I love that visual. Is great. But the challenge, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big fan. I've done the ramen noodles. I've done all that, and there's nothing wrong with going after something and and sacrificing. I think that it builds character, and there's something, you have a good story certainly behind it. And if you want to do that, great, more power to you. It doesn't mean that we can't work together. However, most people, in my opinion, most people, and to some degree, I'm one of these people, they don't have the discipline and they don't have the detail focus to do that.
Hmm.
Because, to a degree, you need maybe a spreadsheet. You need to kind of watch things, and you need to write things down, and you can't have one bad day, because if you do, then you forget what happened that day, and you got to write it and all these things.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, you've got these envelopes of cash sitting here, and you're on your game plan. You've been going great for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is, and you're feeling good, and you and your wife are excited that you're eating your ramen, and you're eating the tomato, the ketchup sandwiches, and whatever you're doing, and then you have a bad week.
Hmm.
And man, I just want beer and pizza on a Friday night, man. I want to feel normal. I'm tired of the work. I'm tired of feeling like I'm in prison. And then what do you do? Well, you do what I did 10 years ago when I tried the same damn thing. And you raid the envelopes of cash, you go get your beer and pizza, and you feel better about yourself. And then you suddenly realize, whoops, I messed up. And it's like I said at the beginning of our talk, you eat that cheeseburger,
Oh,
you
yeah.
make that stupid purchase, and suddenly you're a loser again. You failed again, just like you did before. You're always going to be in debt. You're always going to be fat. You're always going to, whatever it is, you're never going to have the life. You're just not that guy. You can never be Jeff Bezos. And we're not trying to be Jeff Bezos here. Just let's get 10% there. Okay, maybe not 10%, but you know what I mean. 0.1% of Jeff Bezos would be pretty good.
But you're exactly right, and I mean that's what we did. So we had your eating out budget, your grocery budget. We had a clothing budget. We had a pet budget. We didn't even have a pet. We wanted to get a pet, and
Right,
we
right.
had a vacation budget.
Yep,
And some of these envelopes only would get $5 a paycheck,
sure,
right? It's not like
sure.
they're building up really quickly, but we go through 2 or 3 months, and it's like we just want to go out for a dinner date. We don't want pizza. and a
Yeah.
dollar movie. We want to go to a real restaurant and sit down. So what do? You take it out of the clothing budget, you take or envelope, you take it out of the vacation budget. And then when you're ready to like, okay, we want to get out of town for a weekend, well, there's nothing in the envelope.
That's right.
So, I like what you're saying here because you can accomplish the same thing
Yeah.
in a different way, with the same amount of money. Now, I would imagine with what you're saying though, like you are going to tell people, if you're spending something on a credit card, that probably has to stop, right?
Yep. 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 It does. It
So
absolutely
there
does.
are changes. It's just not necessarily in what you do, how you spend the money, but it's
Yeah.
how you spend the money.
Right. Well, and also the changes aren't as drastic, and it's much easier. And this may not be the best metaphor, but I mean, if you want to boil a frog, you turn up the heat slowly.
Mm.
So, in the frog in this metaphor is the debt. We want to boil the debt and get rid of it. And
Mhm.
so it's much easier to do it when you go slow in. And what I mean go slow in is you're not upsetting your budget any. We're using money that you're already using. Um,
Mhm.
and again, the way that we term inefficient or lazy money, they're dollars that are going overpayments to debt to money going into a savings account where you're earning maybe 1%,
Mhm.
right? Because that's all we're doing. We're treating this like a savings account. This is a bank account because it's liquid still. And then you get the other benefits of, okay, this is a death benefit. That's pretty good. I didn't know. I mean, this young lady, she now is insurable for the rest of her life when she does get married and does have kids, and that's a good benefit. It's not why we're doing it, but it's a nice side benefit. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um, Plus, the other neat thing about it is it forces you to be responsible because when we issue this policy, that money we've decided, excuse me, let me rephrase that. You've decided, I don't determine the premium. I don't determine the size of the policy. You do. You say, okay, and that's a really important conversation.
Mhm.
I am not going to let you put together a plan that in 6 months you're going to want to cancel. That helps nobody. We
Mhm.
want something that's comfortable, that you're used to, which is why we want it to be budget neutral. I'm already overpaying on my debt $200. I'm already putting $200 in the bank account because I'm saving for whatever vacation next year.
Mhm.
Great. Let's take the 400. Let's put it in here. You're still going to use it to pay off your debt, and you're still going to save for vacation next year because we're still going to be able to use that money next year.
Right. Hmm.
The
Now,
same thing. And here's the other cool thing. And so anyway, so that money is coming EFT out of your bank account.
mhm.
Now you can still change all this. You're not locked into anything, but it takes a conversation with me and it takes 30 days to change it. And that's so again, if you want to go down the path, you're you're forcing yourself to win,
Right.
which I think is huge.
With
It's
the
huge.
whole life policy and the cash value there, I mean that you use the word borrowing out of it.
Yeah.
So it's a loan though,
Yeah.
but it has to
Yep.
be repaid, correct?
Yep.
So what happens like if somebody doesn't? So they take 3,500 out, for instance, pay off a debt, and they keep paying the policy,
Yep.
but they don't pay over. They don't pay that back. What I mean, besides derailing the process, I get that. But what else? I mean, like, what's the downside if they do that? What's the consequence?
So I'll answer that two ways. First off, with our process of paying off debt in this strategy, the minimum payment once you pay off a debt to Visa or whatever, the
Hmm.
minimum payment you were paying them stays in your budget. It's just going to go to you in your policy instead of to Visa.
Hmm.
So that extra money is going to go to pay back that loan you took out.
Okay.
Okay. Second piece, no one is hollering at you to pay that back. You should pay it back and you will pay it back. And at the end of the process, when you're fully out of debt, it's all paid back. It's
Hmm.
part of the process. But let's say you didn't. You're not losing anything. No one's dinging your credit. No one's calling to say, hey, you bum, pay this back. And if you don't pay it back, it's simply, and the person who it's written on, which doesn't have to be you, it can be someone you have insurable interest on, a child, a spouse, a business partner. Those are all very legal and proper ways to use whole life insurance or any insurance, or any life insurance, excuse me. It just comes out of the death benefit when they pass. That's all.
So it's not, but I wanted to get at that point that it's not like if you don't pay the credit card company.
Correct.
It's not coming on your
Correct.
credit. There's not going to be any debt collector showing up at your door.
Nope.
You borrowed this money because it's your money.
It's your money. You are banking on yourself.
Now, of course, the
To use someone else's
obviously I
term.
put that out there to clarify that, but that's also a bad idea. I mean, I get
Sure. Yeah, I don't condone it. I
because
don't
you're hurting
advocate for it. You should be an honest banker. Pay yourself back.
You're just hurting yourself. And again, the flip side is you talked about that compounding interest. So if I borrow that money and I don't pay it back, I'm not compounding that interest. I'm not going to have as much later on.
Yeah, it hurts. It slows it down a little bit, but not as much as you would think. So two things on that. There is a simple interest charge for that loan, which is 4.75, simple interest. But you're paying. So one of the cool things about these policies, it's important. This concept and this strategy only works with a mutual company that pays a dividend. So there's two types of insurance companies: a stock company, where the people who are stockholders get the dividends, get the benefit, and there's a mutual company. Mutual companies, the policy owners are the stockholders, and they get paid a dividend. So you're an owner in the company. Not a massive owner, but you're an owner in the company. So you're paying interest to a company that you own. It's like if you owned a grocery store and you went to go shop at your grocery store. Are you just going to pull it off the shelf, or are you actually going to put money in the till to help the overall health of the company? If you're smart, you're going to put it in the till to help the overall health of the company. And that's the same philosophy here. But at the same point, you want to pay it back, and you do, and you eventually all the money that you're paying to these creditors is going into this policy, earning 5.2% compound interest, and all of your loans are paid back. And then you can start doing some really exciting things, which is you can, like, for example, this young lady, she'll have, when she's 43 years old, she'll have $27,000 in cash in this policy. So what does she do then? One of the things she could do is go down and get herself a nice used car for $25,000. She can take a $25,000 loan from her policy, go down there, buy the car for cash from wherever she gets it from. And then if she's smart, she's going to pay herself a $500 monthly car payment or $300 monthly, whatever it is, and charge herself 6.5% interest or 3.5%, whatever the heck it is, and do that herself. And then over time, she'll be much better off over time. She's paying herself back. She's being an honest banker. And if she has a slow month, if COVID hits, the next whatever it is that's going to happen, unfortunately, she's not completely sunk. She's not hurting herself. So it's just a smarter way to do things.
It certainly sounds like I've never heard of this method before. This is fascinating. Now, I do want to clarify as well. This is not something where we want everybody to be warned here. Don't just run out to your insurance agent and be like, I want a whole life policy.
No.
I'd like to borrow money from it.
No, there are, as with anything, there are folks that claim to be practitioners in the craft, in the strategy, and they don't do a good job, and they don't write them correctly. They have to be structured correctly. My advice is so infinite banking is the strategy. Well, first off, my advice is to call me. But at the end of the day, if you have a whole life insurance policy and you've got cash value in there, there's nothing wrong with taking a loan from that. But you need to make sure that you watch what you're doing. Talk to somebody that understands and can explain to you what that means, what you can and can't do, how much you can take, because every insurance company is different. And not much different, but they're different. and they have different parameters. And if your policy isn't initially structured for cash value, there might be things that you can't do with it that I'm talking about you can do. And so, yeah, you need to make sure you're talking to someone. Like with anything, if you're going to, and I explain this to people in this way, a standard life insurance policy is like a Toyota Corolla. It's a very safe car. It's going to last you a long time. And, you might be able to go a few months without changing the oil past the time you should change. You want to be fine. The policies I write are like a Ferrari. You need to know what you're doing. You need to be with someone who knows how to drive it, knows how to corner it, knows how to put it together, and knows that the oil needs to be changed at a very specific time, or else you're going to throw a rod, and you don't want to throw a rod. Not when you're going 120 miles an hour down the road.
Fair enough.
So
somebody sitting here maybe watching this program saying, okay, my interest is piqued.
Yeah.
I don't like all this debt. I don't like, not being able to look at doing the things I want to do.
Right.
What do they do? How do they get in touch with you?
So you can go to my website. It is the-debt-eliminator.com. It's just the debt eliminator with dashes. The-debt-eliminator.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can email me at mike@the-debt-eliminator.com. Or you can call me at 44-DEBT is gone. 44-DEBT is gone.
44-DEBT is gone.
That's 44-DEBTISGONE. And honestly, the NE at the end are just there for looks. That's not really numbers.
So we'll make sure we put that information in the comment section.
Sure.
When,
I appreciate that
as well. And I'm assuming that in somewhere in this, and it might be different for different situations, but there's going to be some sort of a fee, and you will talk about that with people when they contact you to discuss their options.
That's an important thing to bring up. There is no fee. I get paid from writing the contract, a commission from the insurance carrier. The customer never writes me a check ever. Well,
it's kind of like, as a real estate agent, I have people all the time when they want to buy a house ask me, well, how much are we going to have to pay you? And I say, you don't pay me anything. The seller pays me.
That's right.
The bad side is if you don't buy a house, I don't get paid.
Right.
Well, that motivates me then to make sure I'm finding what you want. We're
exactly
out there
right.
looking at it. So, okay.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Very cool. So really, there's no risk if somebody is in a situation where they're dealing with debt and they don't know what to do, to at least reach out and have a conversation with you.
Yeah. If you're having trouble with your debt, if you're wanting to pay off your debt more quickly, pay less interest, or you're saving for something in the future, you should call me. We can do it smarter.
Very, very cool. Well, any final thoughts before we close down? Anything else you'd like to share here?
The last thing I'd like to share is kind of what we've been talking about the whole time, is that you can get out of where you are. You absolutely can pay it off faster. You can create a savings, you can create an emergency fund, and you can set yourself up so that you can handle the next tragedy, the next chaos in your life a lot more efficiently and effectively.
And anybody, really, no matter what kind of income you have, as long as you have income, I would assume.
Sure.
But even somebody on a fixed income could do something like this.
Fixed income. I've worked with individuals, families, businesses, anybody that wants to do it smarter.
It's a matter of having the information.
That's right.
Knowing what you're doing, having somebody who knows what they're doing, and then making different decisions. Really.
Like with anything. You got it.
Well, Mike, thank you. This has been, I've learned, I want to talk to you more offline about this. I really do. It's fascinating. But thank you for sharing this. And everybody watching, thank you for watching. And again, if you want to reach out, there's no obligation to talk to him. There's no fee to talk to him. It's worth a phone call, because there is a better way than to live paycheck to paycheck, lived locked into paying off all these debts. Whether you meant to do it or not, there is a better way. And there are other methods for sure. But again, information is powerful. And I hope you will at least take some of the ideas here watching and say, okay, I want to evaluate where I am. I want to be honest about where I am, where my money's going, and maybe begin making some different decisions. And reach out to Mike if you want to know more. Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And everybody else, thanks for watching. Join us again very soon for another episode. Have a great
Great.
one.
Thanks, Devin.